Hello and welcome back. I'm your host for today's exciting live event, our third out of our 6 weekly LinkedIn Live workshops, Unlock the Power of Jobs to be Done. I'm Brent Schmidt, a partner in Agile Innovation Advisors. And if you've been along for the ride so far, welcome back. And if you're new today, welcome. And please put in the comments where you're located. It's great to see who's with us today. We'll come back to that when we get to the comments later. So make sure to watch our first two sessions, Why Jobs to be Done and For Whom Are You Creating Value? And we'll post the links in the comments section. We hope you're enjoying the series. We've heard from many of you, both new and more senior product and marketing professionals, and appreciate your participation and the input to make this series as valuable as possible. And today, get excited. This is what you've been waiting for. We're diving into the heart of jobs to be done. And of course, remember, this isn't a one-way conversation. It's a live event, which means your participation is crucial. And throughout our discussion, feel free to drop your thoughts and questions in the comments section. We'll get to them at the end. We, of course, want this to be interactive. Okay, Zach, let's dive into week 3.
Great. Thank you, Brent. And welcome back to all of you. Again, I'm Zach Lyons, managing partner of Agile Innovation Advisors. And so far, we have talked about why jobs to be done is important. Remember, it acts like a lens that we can use to see our customers and their needs differently. And we also discussed for whom are you creating value in terms of your organization's market ecosystem. And so as Brent just mentioned, if you missed either of those, you should check those out. They're recorded and up on LinkedIn. Today, however, we are going to discuss finally, what job is your customer trying to get done? The late Harvard Business School professor Theodore Levitt once famously quipped, "People don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want a quarter-inch hole." And in fact, they don't just want a hole, they drill a hole for other reasons, such as to hang a picture or put up a shelf. So why does this matter? Well, when most organizations want to improve the customer experience, they typically start by thinking about what they can change about their product or service, or what new product or service they can create, like our training wheel company back in session 1. However, we've learned that the only thing that matters when it comes to customer satisfaction and loyalty is the extent to which a product or service helps that customer get something done. And the leading approach to understand this is to define what the customer is trying to do as a job to be done. And by job, we simply mean a task, an activity, a need, an outcome, or goal. Look, it doesn't really matter what you call it. What matters is how you define them, which is what we will be discussing now. So for example, here is a job to be done that consumers may be doing when it comes to their finances, opening a new account. Perhaps many of you have done this job recently. What you may notice is that this statement doesn't talk about how they can do that or what solution they're using, just that they want to open a new account. And what you may also notice is that the job starts with a verb and has an object of action, which is the thing that the verb is acting on, if you remember back from English classes, and possibly a context, such as online or in person. Now, all jobs follow this structure because they are action-oriented and, to be clear, must have an object upon which the verb is acting. So if we just had open as an example, that wouldn't be very clear. However, not all job statements must have a context. The structure of a job statement is important, and the reason we're going into all this detail, because when prioritizing them with customers, we don't want to introduce variation in the process simply because we change the structure. So this is a lot like what a marketer must do to successfully conduct an A/B test. They need to keep everything consistent except for the one variable they want to test. So if we change this statement, for example, to new account opening, then that could impact how customers rate it in a survey, but wouldn't really change the meaning of the statement significantly. So here's another example. For the job of invest in stocks, we have a verb, an object of action, and we may have a context such as on a mobile device if that really matters for the customer experience you are exploring. And context can be things like where, when, on what, or by whom the job is being done. What it does is it really adds more detail to ensure clarity in the job statement. So now that we know what a job statement structure looks like, let's talk about what makes an ideal job statement. There are a couple of rules that jobs must adhere to. First, they're solution agnostic, meaning they are free of solutions and how the job is being done today. They're outcome oriented. In other words, they describe what the job executor is trying to get done, not what they're doing or have done. Of course, they're readable, right? Each statement follows the rules of proper English and can be understood when they're being prioritized by the job executor and also when the team is developing solutions to address them later. So there are two audiences that have to be able to read and understand the statements. They're consistently structured, as we've just spent a little time discussing. Also, they're independent, meaning they're mutually exclusive from other job statements. And then finally, they're carefully worded, really to avoid ambiguities, jargon, and unnecessary variation in language so that, again, they're easily understood and they're consistent from statement to statement.
All right, Zach, you just threw a lot of information at us, so let's put it to the test. And whether you're with us live or watching on the recording, we're going to walk through 4 different examples. We'll give you a option 1 and 2, and then we'll give you a chance to look at the criteria, the 6 criteria, think about which is the better job statement, and then ultimately we'll reveal that to you. So let's look at the first 2 potential job statements here. So the first one is call the bank to learn about different types of accounts. Or determine what types of accounts the bank has available. So which of these is the better job statement? And if you want to play along right now, put in the comments either a 1 or a 2. Which is the better job statement? We'll just give you a couple seconds to do that. Okay, Zach, why don't you reveal the better job statement and help us understand why?
Sure, Brent. So in this example, for these 2 statements, number 2 is the better job statement. And the reason is call the bank is really to learn about different types of accounts. It really includes a solution hidden in there, call. That's just one way to learn about different types of accounts. And so the goal when you're doing customer interviews and gathering these statements is to dig deeper to understand why customers are calling the bank. That's what they're really trying to get done. So in this case, determine what types of accounts the bank has available is what they're trying to accomplish. Calling the bank is how they might go about doing it. But in fact, there may be actually a number of ways to get number 2 done, not just call the bank.
Right. Great. Let's look at the second one. So far our audience is 100%. File a tax return on time or file a tax return as quickly as possible. Both seem important, but which is the better job statement? Number 1 or number 2?
I have to warn you that we're going to get incrementally harder as we go through these.
Exactly. Started off easy.
So what's the better statement?
Yeah, let's reveal that.
So in this case, number 1 is the better statement. File a tax return on time. The reason being is that for number 2, quickly as possible is ambiguous. Success can vary by person depending on what quickly means. And it's hard to measure, right? What does quickly as possible mean? Filing a tax return on time is what they're trying to get done, meaning the government, whether it's a local government or federal government, has deadlines. So you want to file the tax return by that deadline on time. And how long it takes to do that, that may be a key part of that. In fact, we may actually uncover that as you dig deeper on different job statements. But in this case, between these two, the goal, the clear job statement is file the tax return on time.
Great. All right, number 3.
Number 3.
Create a budget and stick with it. Sounds important? Or stick with a budget? Again, we'll give you a bit of a pause to think about that. Which of these is the better job statement? Look at the criteria. We do want this to feel like a workshop, so we don't want to give you the answer too quickly. Okay, Zach, why don't you reveal the better job statement?
All answers were final.
We've got 2s here. We've got 2s. So are they right?
Number 2 is a better job statement. So you create a budget and stick with it is not consistently structured because it should be 2 separate job statements. So whenever you have, and this is a little bit of a hint, when you have an and, or, but, you should be careful because that may mean you have actually combined 2 jobs into one. And it can happen very easily. And this is a problem because if you have 2 jobs masked as one, then you introduce ambiguity into the process. So when you go to ask customers to prioritize them, which job is the one that they're prioritizing? You won't know. So you want to be very detail oriented and break them into individual job statements. So in this case, stick with a budget is the simplest one. In fact, number 1, create a budget and stick with it are 2 job statements. And so you could say, actually, it's a good one. You just need to have 2 job statements there.
Break it into 2, right?
Break it into 2.
Yeah. Great. Okay, let's look at the next one here.
The next and last one.
Determine what others think about a lender's interest rates. Seems important. And determine which lenders offer the lowest interest rates.
This one's trickier.
Let's give our audience 30 seconds here. 1 or 2, which is the better job statement? And for those of you watching later, which one do you think it is? Okay, our audience thinks it's number 2. What do you think, Zach?
Good. Number 2 is the better job statement because it is outcome oriented. So in other words, it describes what they are trying to get done, which is universal, and not what they are doing, which could be specific to each person. So even though number 1 doesn't include an explicit solution like we had in the first example around call, ultimately what they want to get done is determine which lenders offer the lowest interest rates. So again, we have to dig deeper to get to the job instead of this first statement that people might say. And this is one of the nuances or tricks in Jobs to be Done. It's really about digging deeper to what they are actually trying to do or get done versus kind of how they do it or what they do today.
Right. And anyone here that's ever conducted an interview knows the answers you get from the interviewee often are a wall of information that you have to filter through and decipher. And so it's a real skill to get past what they're doing and to dig into those reasons why they're doing what they're doing. And we'll get to that in a future session, Zach. Dig into that a little more.
The interview, how to dig a little deeper. That's a good point.
Dig a little deeper. That's really what we're talking about. So bring us to the next state. Thanks for participating, everyone.
So building on what we just discussed, let's talk about the customer jobs hierarchy, because jobs don't exist in isolation. They exist with all kinds of jobs. And all customer jobs fit into a hierarchy. So for example, for the job of opening a new account, there are higher level jobs customers are trying to get done, such as save money for the future, or finance the purchase of a home, or earn additional income through investments, etc. Furthermore, jobs follow a flow. So for example, before opening a new account, customers must select the type of account to open, select the financial institution with which to open a new account, and then even after opening an account, they must access that new account. So there are literally hundreds of jobs people are trying to get done. And this hierarchy helps us to make it more explicit and really identify which job we are interested in studying further to improve the customer experience. Because you could pick any of these to go study. The question is, which one do you focus on? So we have a couple of tricks here. How do you choose a job to study? Well, after doing that exercise, you should begin to see that there are, as we just pointed out, many jobs people are trying to get done, and that some enable other higher level jobs. So which one do you study? Well, there isn't one right answer, but there are better choices based on your business goals and what you're trying to achieve in your organization. So let's explore this for a moment. Let's say your objective is to increase revenue. The question is, how do you plan to get there? What product or service will you be trying to improve? So this is one set of questions you need to ask yourself to help you figure out what job to study. Perhaps you need to consider finding a new market opportunity outside of your core versus incrementally improving your core offering, given trends in your industry. Again, that may impact which job you study. Also, you may want to look at the market size. Are there a lot of people trying to do the job today, but not many solutions available? Do people spend a lot of money on solutions to get the job done? So as you can tell, choosing the job to study really can't be done in a vacuum. You need to consider the organization's strategy and goals and desired direction by answering these types of questions to help you say, okay, this is the job that will help us achieve our business objectives. Let's go back to the customer jobs hierarchy so I can share one more thing, as Steve Jobs used to famously say. When we continue to go up the hierarchy, we eventually move away from functional jobs, such as you see here, to emotional and social jobs. So for example, feel in control of your money or feel confident in your money choices are emotional jobs. They are how job executors want to feel when getting a job done. And similarly, be perceived as successful is an example of a social job. This is how job executors want to be perceived by others when getting a job done. So of note, we call the job we are studying the core functional job, and the other functional jobs, related jobs, really to differentiate between the two. I know this is a lot, so let's recap the main types of jobs that exist. We have core functional jobs, which are the task, activity, need, outcome, or goal that we are studying, right? That we're using our business objectives and understanding of the business direction to pick which one we should so focus on. Then we have related jobs, right? These are the functional jobs related to that core job. We have emotional jobs, the higher level jobs, right? That how job executors want to feel when doing that core functional job. And then we have social jobs, which are how job executors want to be perceived by others, again, when doing the core functional job. So when innovating products or services, we really need to focus on a functional job. That's sort of the anchor upon which we do a study. And these other related jobs, either functional, emotional, or social, then are areas that we explore as we explore the core functional job. So for next week, I encourage you to think about what primary functional job your customers are trying to get done for which they use your product. And that will really become your anchor, as I just mentioned, when we dive deep into job maps. And this is where we will apply jobs to be done to generate a complete set of granular customer needs that most methodologies miss.
Awesome. Thanks, Zai. So just again, we've been having some really rich Q&A in the past sessions. What questions do you have? You can post them in the comments, and we'll give you an opportunity to get some answers today. Anything to do with the core functional job, or if you're struggling between a couple of different ways to define your core functional job, what might that be? Or just in general, what questions do you have about this part of the process, or even the past few weeks when we talked about what is jobs to be done, and who are you trying to serve, right? Who are you trying to create value for? So this is the next logical step in the series of thinking around framing up a job and a study. So what questions do you have? Please post them and we can do our best to answer them.
We know the material here was pretty dense, so we either are going to get a lot of questions or no questions, depending on.
Both are possible, yeah, absolutely. While we're thinking about that, I'll ask you one question. So emotional jobs and social jobs. So you highlighted that they're obviously related to the core functional job. When do you consider those? Where do you use that information when you think about what comes after, understanding these jobs? Where does that fit into the puzzle?
Yeah, the emotional and social jobs is a good point. Ultimately, people say, well, that's what they're trying to accomplish because we are emotional beings. What we say, though, is that the core functional job is functional. So that really lends itself to improving your product or service, because this is what people are trying to get done. So the product or service enables them to do that. So if you improve it, you're addressing functional jobs. What I would say is the emotional and social jobs, it's not really so much about the function, but more about how you message and position to your target customer, because this is how they want to feel or be perceived, right, when they're doing this job. So if you can message to that, then you're more likely to resonate and thus drive interest in your product or service. So emotional social jobs really lend themselves better to the marketing aspects of downstream work.
Okay. Messaging, imagery, things like that.
Imagery.
Right.
Even I've had some clients who use that as basis for their copy.
Right. Right. I think our audience today are fairly informed about jobs to be done. They don't seem to be having any questions at this time. So we'll give you another 30 seconds or so, and then if not, we'll close for today. This was a meaty lesson. And again, next week we'll be talking about job mapping, getting into the details of what that means and why do it. And whenever I've shared this methodology with customers who have experience with more traditional market research, they often say that when you look at job maps and the detail that provides, it's a lot different than what traditional market research provides, and that when they kind of compare and contrast. So I'm looking forward to sharing what we know about that and helping you dig even deeper into jobs to be done.
I can add just some color commentary. Choosing the job to study and the hierarchy can be challenging. So you really need to play with the idea. So you say, okay, here's a job that we think we want to study, let's say to improve our product or service. And then you can say, okay, well, why do you want to do that? What does that enable if you want to go up one? And is that at the right level, or is that too high a level? So maybe you need to go down one, depending on whether you're trying to improve the customer experience or trying to help them do other related jobs. It can get tricky. One thing you'll know is as you go too high, it quickly gets very esoteric. So open a new account. Why do you want to do that? I want to be able to save for retirement. Why do you want to save for retirement? I want to be able to live well after I work. Well, why do you want to do that? You can see quickly it gets to the sort of like high level meaning of life types of statements, which usually for most organizations, unless you're maybe a religious institution, is not so helpful. So you've gone too high.
That's good tip. Thanks. So some appreciative comments today from everyone, thinking the topic's interesting and thanking us again. So with that, we'll close. We appreciate, again, your engagement. Thanks for playing along with the job statement comparison. Hope you enjoyed that, testing your thinking regarding which is the better way to frame up a job statement. Make sure to book the next 3 Wednesdays in your calendar. And again, follow the hashtag JTBD Foundation Workshop to stay in the know. We'll be posting about the next session tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing you there. Again, thanks again. And Zach, nice job today.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you guys for joining us today.
Awesome. Bye for now.